Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Celtic Down Under's Liam Carrigan for the post-match for Hearts 3, Celtic 4. What an afternoon of football that was, Liam. So that I can catch my breath, take me through your thoughts of that second half, and then we'll look at the game as a whole.
Well, I was just going to say, whoever that half-wit was you had on at the half-time show who said that, take off Giakoumakis Maeda, sack him. Uh, oh, wait, that was me, sorry. No, great second half, really. If there is such a thing as a neutral fan watching that today, what an incredible game of footballing drama. A lot of it concocted by the horrifically incompetent referee, but still a great spectacle for television, I would suggest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, we'll go through it blow by blow, Liam. And
Aye.
it's hard. It is hard when you're so emotionally invested in a game to think about it that way. You know, when the
Mm.
pressure's on you, you're hitting back. But after the event, particularly when you've won the game, you can concede
Aye.
that actually that would have been some spectacle for anybody watching. Even though we'll get back to the couple of VAR decisions that we think the officials got wrong in the first half. But
Mm.
we did prevail. We did get the win. I'm going to bring up as many comments as I can. I understand it will be a busy one this afternoon because that was some game. Michael McDonald never felt comfortable the whole game. I know the feeling.
Mm.
Moy though is looking more and more like an old pals act signing. I mean, other than the miss,
Mm.
and it was a bad miss. Other than the
Aye.
miss though, I mean, he played a part. He played a part in a couple of the goals as well.
He did a good job of. There was a couple of times when he made good forward runs that took the pressure off us as well when we were ahead. No, I think not his best game in a Celtic shirt, but definitely not his worst either. I think he put in a good shift today, Moy.
Yeah, I did, and as I say, I mean, one of the goals we were looking at in that second half, or we will look at rather, will show that he was certainly involved. As were the substitutes that were made. I think
Mm.
they were made at just the right time. The subs were made on 65, and we got our reward just 10 minutes later. We'll be talking about wee Greg Taylor as well, who has come through a rough patch, and
Mm.
his journey, his transition from a lot of people reckon he was a good domestic player. I know to me today he was domestic, but I think he's shown good form in Europe this season as well, Liam. Let's have a wee word then about the guy who got the winning goal, Greg Taylor. Going into the pre-season, I think a lot of the chat was around trying to get that kind of balance where you've got Ralston there who you're quite confident with, but we've brought in
Mm.
Juranovic and there's a bigger, higher step up. There's a standard, and you want that in every position. We didn't have it in goals. I think we do now. We didn't have it at left back, and we certainly do now because Taylor's obviously not been dropped, but he's not made the starting lineup today.
Mm.
But I think when he came on, it was another reminder of just how good his form has been recently.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to think that I made the point pre-match that I felt Taylor was a more defensive, solid option, whereas Bernabei was more about getting forward and attacking. And yet, there's Taylor popping up and scoring the winning goal today, just to just to kind of completely destroy my narrative. It was yeah, it was great to see, really good to see. And the thing is, we look at. I've spoken before about how I don't like the way certain players are singled out when we don't have a good game. And
Mm.
today you had, Forrest again, Maida, and finally Greg Taylor. Three guys that have all come in for abuse at different times, and yet, scored very important goals for us today.
No, you're right, and I would throw into the mix as well. Although he didn't score, he did set up the first goal. Tony Ralston obviously has come through that,
Aye.
and the thing with Taylor is I think that he has developed massively since Ange came in, as has many of the players in the squad. I'm not sure why it took so long for him to establish himself as a Celtic player. A lot of
Hmm.
people are talking about the Kieran Tierney effect. We were talking about Tierney before the game. And I just think, there is a step up. But we don't do it that often these days, and we don't buy from the Scottish market as often as we probably once did. And sometimes, the guys that you bring in are unfashionable. I I think
Aye.
Moyes suffering a wee bit from that as well. I know we didn't buy
Mm.
him domestically, but he's an unfashionable signing, just like Greg Taylor. But you know, other people were a wee bit concerned that he was brought up a Rangers fan. He obviously played for Rangers when he was a youth and all this nonsense. But I don't think that matters one jot. You seen the joy after he scored against Rangers last season. You seen the joy in
Aye.
his face after he scored today, and it looks as though he's a right popular part of that squad. I know there was a wee clip of the team group getting photographed during the week there, and obviously there was
Mm.
that wee bit about him and Jota, and I just think he's a guy that's definitely got over that, and he is also the first choice left back, isn't he? I know he was left
Yeah.
out today, but he is the first choice left back. Liam, would you agree with that?
He is, and he's there on merit. Um, Bernabei has to earn that spot because it is Greg Taylor's at the moment, and it should be.
You know, I've been a big champion of Bernabei in the last wee while. I mean, he came in, he didn't step right into the team. There was then that incident off the park. I wasn't
Mm.
convinced from the pre-season, but I wasn't writing him off because it's first Argentinian. It's a huge transition, and then
Yeah.
he came into a game and he had some really really good performances. But today, I think probably highlighted what you said there in relation to Greg Taylor. When it
Mm.
comes to the defensive side of it, he's not there yet. I don't think he's certainly not up there
No.
with Greg Taylor defensively, is he?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But time is on his side.
Mm-hmm.
He's a young player, but he's also very new to Celtic, and particularly with defenders, it can take a bit longer to bed in than because if a striker scores within his first 2 or 3 games, that's him away and he's flying. Defenders can I mean, a good example of that is looking back to when I first started following Celtic back in the 90s. Alan Stubbs.
Mm.
Alan Stubbs went on to become a hero to a lot of Celtic fans, but for his first probably about 6 to 9 months, he was rank rotten. He couldn't put a foot right. And it was just the bedding in time. It took him time to
Yeah,
find his feet and realise what he had to do and what was expected of him. And Bernabei, I mean, he's already doing better than I think Stubbs was in his first few games with Celtic. But it's in time he will grow into the role. But at the moment, Greg Taylor is the man, and Bernabei has to learn from that.
I think it is always useful to look at the history books and find other similar examples. Stubbs is a very good shout, actually. I remember his first game, Aberdeen at Pittodrie, he gets sent off, didn't he?
That's right. Aye. Yeah.
And this is a guy who went on to have some real success at Celtic. I remember watching an interview probably when he was back at Everton as a coach, and he was having a chat through his career. When Celtic signed him, it was a big, big deal. I remember Burns shelling out a lot of money, and there were various clubs interested in him at
Aye.
that time, English clubs. He was part of that Bolton team with Alan Thompson and Jason McAteer, all the guys that went on to bigger and better things. But you're right, it took him a while. It took Paul Elliott a wee while as well when he came to
Yeah.
Celtic, just to adapt. And like you say, it's not a goal you're looking for. It's the
No.
performances and then the consistency of performance. Of course, we went through the first half, and we'll come back to that for anybody who never tuned in at half time. But let's have a look at some of the incidents in the second half, and we'll work our way back there, Liam. We've already spoke about the winning goal, but there's a lot more to speak about.
Oh God, yeah.
We went in at 1-1, and at half time, you and I were talking about maybe mixing it up a bit. The chat in the comments was that Hearts were in this game. They were giving us a good game. No denying that. And obviously, we'll come back to the bar. But anyway, what happened was, as soon as we kick off, Hearts open the scoring. And again, Varcek, Shanklin scores the goal, and we're 2-1 down. Tell me at that point, when we're talking about character, test of character, the we never stop mantra, what are you thinking at that moment? Because I've got to say, I knew because of the type of game it was, there was more goals in this. I wasn't that concerned at that moment in time.
No, well, I said I was watching the game with my dad over the iPad, and I said to him, I said, look, this is not going to, there's no way this going to finish 2-1. I said, I have no idea what the score's going to be now. I said, but I don't see it finishing, finishing 2-1. I thought I thought Celtic would probably come back and win 3-2, to be honest. But then, credit to Hearts, they came back into it again. And I think there's a lesson to be learned here from... Now, Hearts didn't get any points today, but I think they would have earned a lot of respect with that performance from people who are maybe not necessarily fans of Scottish football, tuning into that game today because it's on the telly, expecting Celtic to steamroller Hearts, because that's what we usually do to most teams in this league. And Hearts gave us a real fright and gave us a really good game. I don't mean this to be in any way patronising. Genuinely, I think Hearts deserve credit for, albeit a referee-assisted, competitive game, but a very competitive game. And if I was a Hearts fan, I wouldn't be too despondent about that tonight. I think they can hold their heads high and say they contributed to a very, very good spectacle.
Massively. And I mean, they have come up against a Celtic side who are in free scoring form. 2 games, 10 goals, 1 goal conceded. And yeah, we did have to score 4 goals to win the game, but it was much, much tighter than the previous 2 fixtures, like you say. Now, the thing with Moy, let's talk about Moy. It's time to talk about Aaron Moy, right?
Oh dear, yes.
We'd already had this chat about Moy because he's starting to rack up the starts, and a lot of that is down to the fact that the captain's injured. We know that, but I was bigging him up, and the real contribution that he makes in the second half is he misses what we used to call a sitter. Was it as bad as that? He should score. He should definitely hit the target, shouldn't he?
Well, for me, a sitter is an open goal, right? And that was not an open goal because he still had to beat the goalkeeper. It's a very, very bad miss, but it's not like Peter Van Vossen level of miss,
There's loads of 90s references, by the way, but just keep them coming because I remember them well.
No, but again, the funny thing is, though, the Van Vossen one was quickly forgotten by that particular set of fans because they won that game. And I think Aaron Moy consider himself a lucky boy that we went on to win this game today, because he'll get a lot less abuse than he would have if we had not won today and he missed that chance.
For sure.
He actually had time, I think, to trap the ball and place it. He didn't have to take it first time. I think he actually had enough space where he could have actually stopped and put his foot in the ball and then picked his spot. But, give the goalkeeper some credit, right? He comes out, makes himself big, and he forces Moy to try and place it into the corner, and he puts it wide. It's a bad miss, but like I say, there's been plenty. Ronnie Rosenthal, there's another one for you.
Oh yeah,
that was worse by far.
Look it up on YouTube if you're a wee bit younger. No, but you're right. I mean, a couple of things about that miss. Aaron Moy, I totally agree, should score. Giakoumakis thought he had scored because he's running away with the arms up as if Moy's going to slot it away. But again, as you say, you forget the miss because we won the game. Let's not forget Maeda's part in that. The build-up for that was a brilliant wee dink with the kind of side of the foot.
Yes.
Lovely. Brilliant. And it's great to see him playing with a wee bit more confidence, Liam. I know you're a big fan, but, he went through a tricky patch there for a few weeks, didn't he?
Aye. And, he still needs to... I still don't think he's close to being back to his best yet, and that will come. I'm sure it will, because he's got it in him. And he's also playing for a World Cup starting place at the moment. He will be in the Japan squad, but will he start? That's a big question. And what he does with Celtic in the next 3 or 4 weeks is going to go a long way to determining that.
Yeah. We'll come to the goal and the celebration as well, because I think there was just an outpouring of emotion, and you understand it because, like you say, not only does he want to get over the tricky patch he's had, you'll have one eye on the international stage as well. I'm really keen to get comments coming in as well as we work our way through this game. At the moment, we're up at Hearts winning 2-1 at this stage. Shanklin's opened the scoring. Nickellion, one word for that VAR experience, farcical. Maybe the game is too quick in end-to-end terms compared to the EPL. Not comparing the standards, just the regulatory of these decisions in both ends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, VAR, I mean, regardless of how entertaining the game was, there is this overarching discussion around the VAR and the performance around VAR. We spoke a fair bit about it at halftime, and we will come back to it because there's absolutely no doubt that it's going to create controversy if it's used the way it is today, Liam. And I'm pretty sure Ange is going to have a few things to say if he's asked the question this time round.
I'm already thinking tomorrow's back page headline is going to be "He's made a farce of it."
You could be a headline writer with that.
I used to be one back in the day, but not anymore.
You should write our taglines. Honestly.
Oh God, no. But yeah, that's the sad thing. A very entertaining game of football, but the referee is all that the papers are going to talk about tomorrow. And we've not even had the Rangers game yet, so God knows what's going to happen in that game.
But again, I asked you, I think it was before the game, Liam, I was talking about, Ange's reaction. Ange's come to Scottish football and he's done it his way in terms of dealing with the media. And I think that there's been many occasions where he has seemed a little bit kind of tired of the line of questioning. But again, none more so this week when it was VAR, VAR, VAR. So on the one hand, you're from a journalistic background, understand why journalists are asking them the question, because there's a few reasons for that. I mean, they're working for editors who are asking for various things, but at the same time, he was at the end of his tether talking about VAR. I'm pretty sure, though, that'll come up in the post-match. I've obviously not seen a post-match interview.
Well, the thing is with that, from the journalist point of view, now I understand one person asking him the question. But at that press conference the other day, he was asked the same question in about 5 or 6 different ways.
Yeah.
And, it's very, very poor journalism, because the thing is, if you go, I mean, I've been to press conferences where I've covered like Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, whatever. And they, every attendee usually gets a transcript of what was said, or they're allowed to record the entire thing. So they can basically quote anything the manager says at the end of that, whether they've asked the question or not. So to me, I think it's actually a bit of ego with some of these writers as well, that they want to be the one that triggers Ange Postecoglou into saying something controversial, Whereas the most controversial thing Ange will do is be call them mate. Because if you're familiar with Australian vernacular, that usually means the exact opposite,
Absolutely. Just before Giakoumakis gets on the score sheet to continue his incredible goal-scoring record that he's had since he came to Celtic, James Forrest was in and about it again, and he had a shot well saved with Craig Gordon. A few moments later, we win the corner, it comes over, and we score from the resulting corner. It's a great header. And at that point, we've scored 2 goals. It's 2 each, and both goals have come with headers, Liam. But Giakoumakis, I mean, we spoke about him at the beginning of the game, and we were both saying, we understand why he's starting this game. The physical aspect of it. Hearts had already talked that up leading up to the game. And he gets us back in the game. It was quoted, the commentary team quoted that it was his 19th goal in 20 starts. And I know that all the statos and the data guys don't even look at that now. They're just looking at minutes and goals and assists per minute. His stats are incredible, Liam. Absolutely astonishing since he came to the club. But I would stand by the fact that there are certain games I would rather play Kyogo. Today wasn't one of them, though. And he proved the guy at half-time wrong as well by getting us back in the game.
Yes. as did Dyson. So I'm gonna take that one on the chin, as Tony Mowbray would say.
The thing with Giakoumakis as well, stop-start, beginning of his Celtic career, but now he's at a stage now where I always go back to the comment that Anthony Joseph made about him when he signed for Celtic for something like £2.5 million, and he was basically of the view that his previous club were looking for €12 million had they stayed in the division. So we've got a player there again, because of the circumstances, like Haksabanovic, different set of circumstances, like various players we're getting him in at the right price, Liam. And it's brilliant. It's superb recruitment, isn't it?
I mean, that's the thing, I do have sympathy for example, clubs like Rubin Kazan, right? Because the situation in their country is in no way their doing, right? So they're being ostensibly punished for something that's completely beyond the sphere of football, right? But football's a ruthless game, and Celtic have taken full advantage of that, and they're perfectly entitled to.
Yeah. No,
same with
right.
same with when if a Dutch team gets relegated and we're able to get their striker for a knockdown fee, that's business. What is it Michael Corleone said? It's nothing personal. It's just business.
It's so true. It's so true. And by the way, I thought you were going to bring in the other signing from Rubin Kazan because we were informed that his name is Abligo. So there you go.
Oh, okay.
I've been calling him Abildgaard. Apologies for everybody that knows the correct pronunciation. So Celtic get back to 2-2, and Boheen Bob comes in here to say they threw everything they had at us today, and the good guys won. We never stop.
Yep.
That is the mantra. That's the mantra, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know there's a massive part of that goes down to the kind of marketing team at Celtic looking for certain things that they can use with their promotional campaigns, and they can use with merchandise, etc. And I remember back to Neil Lennon, and it was the Thunder, remember? And then Ronnie Way's Roar, and Ange Ange now has We Never Stop, We Don't Stop. And by the way, I think it's one of these things that when he spoke about it, when he had that mic'd up session all those months ago, Liam, a lot of these people, I'm not talking about Celtic fans, by the way, but a lot of the press guys, etc., were criticising him, saying, that's just basic football, what he was chatting. But, I mean, I think he's had the last laugh, because, again, today, there were so many moments of that game where we're getting the stuffing knocked out of us, but we come back, and we don't stop, and we win the game. And I think, a massive part of that is the character of this football club. We spoke about a cultural change when Neil Lennon was in his last days at Celtic. How impressed have you been with this culture that Big Ange has implemented at Celtic?
It's everything that I hoped and I believed it could be, and more. It's absolutely amazing. I look back to, and obviously I'm looking through nostalgic lenses here, right? But my first season as a season ticket holder at Celtic was the treble season, Martin O'Neill's first year. So I look back on that set of players with a particular with a particular fondness and a particular, affection. But I remember going to games then, and there was occasionally a time where we might have been drawing at halftime or even losing at halftime. But there was always just this belief that it's all right. Martin's got it in hand. We're going to come back and win this game. And, 99 times out of 100, we did. Yeah. And I have not really, Gordon Strachan achieved great things with Celtic, took us to the last 16 of the Champions League for the first time. Neil Lennon did it again. Ronnie Dyler brought in some good new ideas at Celtic, even though it didn't quite work as much as we wanted it to. And now, but with Ange, this is the first time since the Martin O'Neill era where I've sat down with games like today, and even when we go 2-1 down after 50 minutes, I'm like, nah, we're going to win this. There's no doubt in my mind we are going to come back and win this, and we did. It's a really nice feeling to get back to that level of confidence again.
No, you're right. I know exactly what you mean, because I think it was down to the mentality of Martin O'Neill's team, but also the personnel, because all you had to do was look around that team and think to yourself, there's guys in that side who are game changers. And you had your talisman, of course, and Henrik, but there was many other players on that part that could really turn the game round for you. And we've got that blend right now, Liam. We do. We've got, the winning goal scored by our left back. The goals are not just coming from, and this is another interesting thing when you look at the brilliant goal scoring record of Giakoumakis. That's all fair and well, but nobody hit 20 goals last season for Celtic, 20 league goals for Celtic. We've had occasions in the past where players have hit 30, 40, 50 goals for Celtic, and often you do have that focal point. The goals are spread all over the park. So even if somebody's having a hard night like Kyogo the other night, you still expect to score. It's so important. I think it was you that said that, though. he doesn't look for talismanic figures, does he? He looks for
No.
every single position, that a specific player to fit that role.
Aye.
And
Aye.
that's exactly what we're getting now, isn't it?
Yeah. In previous years, we have got good players and built teams around those good players, like Henrik Larsson, right? Now, Henrik Larsson was, well, I wasn't, I'm not old enough to have seen Jinky play live, so Henrik Larsson is the greatest player I've ever seen play for Celtic, right? But, we had that luxury of being able to build a team around him. And he elevated, some other players who were very good but were not on the same level as him into being part of a great team. But with Ange, that's the great thing as well. Everybody's kind of, back in the day, everybody had Larsson's name in the back of their shirt, right? Now, you look around, Jota, Hatate, Kyogo, Haksabanovic, there's about 8 or 9 different players. Everyone's got oh, that's my favourite player. I mean, personally, Joe Hart's probably my favourite player at the moment. And that's incredible to think that I'd have England's second all-time cap goalkeeper as my favourite player is really saying something,
You need to start buying the goalie jerseys, Liam. That's something that we don't do that often. Buy the goalie.
I do actually have a couple of Celtic goalie jerseys, but I'm not getting an England one, so let's not go there. my dad would disown me.
There is a moment actually that obviously Joe Hart saved a penalty in that second half, but we'll get to that because there was a part of that whole passage of play that I found quite interesting with Big Joe. But we then we go 3-2 up, and this is the moment I think when Aaron Moy's shot plays a massive part in the goal. And at that stage, I'm just basically saying, all is forgiven, Aaron. We're back ahead. Your miss is forgotten about. And it's 3-2. But I want to make another point about Maeda because he was looking a wee bit short of confidence, wasn't he? He scores that goal, and the first thing he does, what used to happen against Rangers in the Broomlawn stand, you just jump into the crowd. I loved it. It was fantastic. And he was embraced. And, whatever he was feeling in terms of something, negativity, or he wasn't confident, it's all washed away now. So it was tremendous to see the reaction he got.
Aye. You just love to see that. I've seen that in the past with so many players who, Big John Hartson was like that. I think did he not go something like 8 or 9 games before he scored his first goal for Celtic? I seem to remember.
Aye, certainly did. Yeah.
Aye. And well, if Dyson goes on to have half the career that Big Hartson did at Celtic, he'll be doing well.
Absolutely. But again, these things, it's energy, it's the positivity, it's the fans. We're all in this together. And if Maeda had any doubt, then I think that was washed away after he scored that goal and embraced with the punters behind the goal. Now, the penalty that got Hearts back in the game, the one thing I was going to mention was Hearts' part in that initial penalty, whereby I don't know what he's saying to the player, but he's giving him the big grin. He's giving him the big Hollywood grin, standing there, trying to psych him out. And he psyched him out. He saved the penalty. We know that it was retaken, right? But he saved the penalty. So again, let's have a wee chat about Joe Hart because he's had a wee bit of stick, rightly so, a couple of bad games, but that's why he's in there. That's why Joe Hart's in the number one position. And by the way, maybe Segrist will get the League Cup games. I'm happy with that.
That's perfectly reasonable. Big teams do that. You have your cup goalkeeper, But something about the penalty which I wanted to pick up on, which I thought was demonstrated Joe Hart's great leadership qualities. Moritz Jens gives away the penalty, right? And he's already on a yellow card. Now, I said to my dad, I said he could be off here because I thought the foul for the penalty was probably more of a bookable offence than the one he actually got carded for in the first half, which I felt was a very soft booking. But Jens is remonstrating with the referee, and Joe Hart just steps between them. And he's like, "Leave it, go away, back off." And I thought that is brilliant leadership because he knows if Jens doesn't shut his trap, he's going to get red carded.
Absolutely.
So he's like, just back off. I'll deal with it. Shut up. I thought that was excellent leadership.
No, it's a good point, Liam, because think back to Dens Park last season, and he done
Aye.
something similar with Juranovic, who was losing the plot, and he
Aye.
basically shoved him into the net, and he got him away
Aye.
from the area where he might have got himself into a bit of trouble. No, that's a great point. I've got to say though, I mean, yeah, I did think Jens was unlucky with his booking. We've seen a lot of really silky performances from him, where it's all to do with his use of the ball, the passing ability, distribution, etc. Today was a different game, where he had to do the dirty work, and you know what? I think he did just fine doing the dirty work, getting stuck in, the
Yeah.
tackles, the headers. So I think we've seen a different side to Jens, and I'm going to maintain that when Starfelt comes back, Liam, he's got a job to move Jens from that left-sided central defence. So you've been quite happy with the performances of him and Carter Vickers together as a partnership.
I mean, that's the thing. Up until a couple of weeks ago, I would have said it's Starfelt and Carter Vickers because that's the strongest partnership. But I acknowledge there was a debate to be had over individually who was a better player, Starfelt or Jens. It's obviously a fully fit team. It's always going to be Carter Vickers +1. That's he's undroppable. And he is also our acting captain now. We should remember. But I think that Jens, with every game that goes past, it becomes more difficult for Starfelt to get back into that team because Jens is starting to show that he can forge as good, if not better, a partnership with Carter Vickers.
Yeah, and I think what's in his favour.
Carter Vickers makes whoever's playing with him better.
Oh yeah,
That's the reality of it,
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that there was an example. We're not comparing like for like in terms of the player, but the scenario with Van Dijk and the players he played alongside, and Denier. And by the way, I like Denier, but I think he certainly looked better alongside Big Virgil. And then the thing that's working in Jens's favour, of course, is that's his natural position. And I always feel Starfelt has got that against him. He's not naturally left-footed. Sometimes takes an extra touch because of it. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one. We've spoken about the winning goal. We spent 15 minutes at half time talking about the two VAR decisions that they got wrong. We're talking about refereeing decisions that they got wrong, VAR decisions they got wrong. Celtic showed enough character to come through all of that kind of adversity, and we won the game 4-3, and we're sitting pretty on top of the league, Liam. I've got to thank everybody for getting involved. I've got to thank Liam for dialing in from Japan. It's always a real pleasure. We do the match day games with Celtic Down Under. If you haven't already, subscribe to them on YouTube, follow them on Twitter and Facebook. Get in about their channel as well. It's all great stuff. You go out once a week on Celtic Down Under as well, Liam, don't you?
Yep, usually on a Wednesday, but I think this week alone we're going to be doing things on a Tuesday, just this week. But ordinarily it would be a Wednesday afternoon Scottish time when we would go up.
Brilliant. Check the guys out, tuning in from, or zooming in, or dialing in from Australia and Japan to make up the team. If you want to support the channel, like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you want to buy some merchandise for Christmas, then visit the link underneath the video. Normally I've got it on a mannequin, but I'm streaming from Dunfermline due to the fact that they won't let us out of Fife 2 weeks running. That's road traffic issues, by the way, nothing to do with tags, etc. Right, thank you everybody for getting involved, and thank you, Liam Carrigan, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you.